So to make this off shoulder flare gown, we'll be needing the bust measurements, the waist measurement, the shoulder measurement, the full length of the blouse measurement, of the gown measurement, and the half length measurement. So the first thing I'm going to do is to mark the shoulder of my client. The shoulder of my client is 7. Half of the shoulder is 7. So I'm going to mark half of the shoulder here. But before I proceed, I want to show you that I place the front panel of my fabric on top of the back panel because I like cutting my front and back panel in one go. So, I also brought out 1 inch zipper allowance for the back panel. So the essence of doing this is to hasten the process, so that as I'm cutting the front panel, the same measurement will be automatically appearing on the back panel. So I'm going to mark the shoulder here, half of the shoulder measurement. The next thing I'm going to do is because it's an off shoulder, I'm going to take out 4 inches because I don't want the shoulder depth to be too much. So I'm going to take out 4 inches, and then I'm going to mark the length of the half length of the gown, which is 17. I've marked the half length here. The next thing I'm going to mark, I'm also going to take out 4 inches and mark the bust point measurement. The bust point of my client is 11, so I'm going to mark that right here. And I'm going to also take out 4 inches and mark the armhole depth. The armhole depth of my client is 9. So minus 4 inches and I'll mark 9. So on that line I marked, this very line you're seeing, I'm going to place the quarter of my client's bust measurement there. The quarter of the bust measurement is 11. And I place that right here. Then on the waist part, I'm going to place the quarter of the waist measurement. My client's weight is 35 divided by 4. I don't really like calculating this thing using my hand. I just fold the tape into 4 and find what the quarter measurement is. So I'm going to place the quarter measurement here. But you know the waist usually have darts, and in order to incorporate that dart, I'm going to add extra 1 inch. Can you see what I'm doing? So what I'm going to do next is to connect the points. First off, I'm going to begin by connecting the waist of the blouse of the top panel. Connect the waist measurement to the bust measurements. The next thing is to get my French curve. Get my French curve and connect the bust measurement to the shoulder measurements, as you can see me doing. So having done that, I'm going to mark out the darts for the upper part of the gown. So to get the dart, you just get the nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. The nipple to nipple measurement of my client is 8. So I'm going to mark the darts right here. And to get the dart length, I'm going to take out 4 inches on the shoulder, and then from the bust point you have to go down by 1 inch or 1.5. Me, I want to go down by 1.5 inch. And I'm going to connect those points together like this. And to get the dart weight, I'm going to take ½ inch from both sides of the darts. Can you see what I'm doing? And I'm going to connect that to the tip here. and then do the same for the other side. That gives us our that side. The next part now is to measure the neck depth. Remember, I already took off 4 inches from the neckline, so I'm going to go down depending on the length on the neck depth you want. Me, I want this neck depth to be 6, and I'm going to mark that here. So I already took out 4 inches here, and I'm adding extra 2 inches to make it 6. The next I'm going to determine is the neck width. I want the neck width to be, usually the ideal neck width for basic bodies is 3, but I want this one to be 3.5 because I want it to be a bit open. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm going to connect those points together like this. To ensure that the armhole is balanced with the neck shoulder, I'm going to straighten this line here. I'm going to straighten the curve to add more allowance, to make the armhole measurement, armhole opening to be balanced with this side. So I'm just going to straighten it. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to add allowance all over the fabric. I'm going to add ½ inch allowance on the down part, on the length of the fabric, and I'm going to add 1 inch allowance on the other one. So this is the 1 inch allowance. So watch what I'll do now. I'm just going to cut out. Remember to cut the zip allowance in 2 parts whenever you put the zip after sewing. So let me show you what we've finally achieved. This is the front part plus the dart. So this is what I have. This is a half length of the front panel, and this is the half length of the back panel. Have you seen how I don't need to cut any extra? I don't need to cut anything extra for the back panel because I already did that at the same time that I'm cutting the front panel. So I'm going to set this aside. The next thing I'm going to do now is to cut the shoulder piece, the off shoulder joining. So to do that, I'm going to take that 4.5. Before the measurement I took off from the shoulder, which is 4 inches, I'm going to put it back here. Just watch what I'm doing. So just get extra fabric. So to mark the distance, I'm going to take the measurement from this point. The measurement on the shoulder point is actually 1.4 inches. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to mark out that 1.4 inches. I'm going to make it 2 inches to incorporate joining allowance. And I'm going to mark. Remember, the 4 inches I took off from the shoulder is just from for the front part. For the back part, I'm going to also add 4 inches, making it 8 inches. Can you see what I'm doing? So I'm going to mark that 8 inches I took off from the shoulder right here. So this is 8 inches. And I'm going to add extra 1 inch for joining allowance. And that is what I'll mark here. That is 9 inches off. So remember to transfer the 2 inches measurement. I'm going to cut this again because I need 2 pieces for the 2 armholes. I'm just going to cut the same pattern. To set this aside now. The next thing I'm going to cut is the sleeve. No, before I cut the sleeve, I'm going to cut the down part of the garment. So to do that, I'll get a new piece of fabric, fold it into 2 plates. So to cut the flare for the down part, I'll be needing the measurement from the waist to the floor, to the ankle of my client. So So the ankle to waist measurement of my client is 39. So I'm going to place the 39 here, but I'm not really going to place exactly 39 because I need allowance. I need a folding allowance for the hem, so I'm going to add extra 2 inches to that. That's 41. So I'm going to mark my 41 inches here. The next thing I'm going to do, can you see how I place the upper part of the gown in a slant way? This is to enable me get the same measurements for the down part and for the upper part at the same time. So I'm going to make sure I don't exceed this measurement when cutting as a flake. Can you see what I just marked? It's in a slant form. So I'm going to place the 41 inches that I measured from the waist to the ankle right here. Can you see what I'm doing? Just hold this point in place, and then keep marking 41 inches. Next thing I'm going to do is to move the tape on the waistline a little upward and mark my 41 inches. Next is to connect the slide in order to form the measurements of the lower part. So that's what I've achieved. Next I'm going to get my long ruler and connect the waist measurement to the hem line. After doing this, the next thing I will do is to add seam allowance all over, just like I did with the front panel. So in this case, I'm going to add ½ inch because it already has enough room. In a down patch, so I'm going to add ½ inch allowance all over to avoid running out of fabric. Here's what I'm doing. I'm going to also add ½ inch to this point. So we're going to cut out this panel, this part. I'm going to use it as a guide to cut the part. Better to have excess fabric than to run short of fabric. So I like giving room when I'm cutting to avoid running short of fabric. This is a down patch of the gown. So I'm going to use this panel as a guide to cut the back one, while including the zip allowance in the back. So to cut the back panel, I'm just going to place this front panel in a slant way just to achieve the same look, the same style, the same pattern as I achieved from the front panel. So make sure you place everything properly, and then I'm going to leave 1 inch allowance on the back panel to incorporate the zip. You know, remember we left 1 inch allowance in the blouse, so we're going to do the same here to incorporate the zip. So after placing it properly, I'm just going to, can you see the 1 inch allowance I left for the zip? Can you see? That's it. So I'm just going to cut through just the same way we cut through the front one. To set this aside. Just before setting it aside, we're going to cut open the back panel to avoid mixing it up with mistaking it for the front panel. So just cut open the zipper allowance. This is very easy to do. You just have to visualize what you want to sew and try to recreate it in the physical. I'm going to set this aside. Next we're going to cut will be the sleeve. And to cut the sleeve, we'll be needing the armhole measurements. Cut the sleeve. We'll have to fold this fabric into two just to cut the two sleeves in one go. After that, you take out you first of all mark the 4 inch you took out from the shoulder line because it has to match. But personally, the 4 inches I took out from the shoulder line, I just don't want to add it only that. I would like it to have a little more of sew, a little bit of puff, so I'm going to add extra 2 inches. That's making it 6 on the shoulder line. From that very point, I'm going to recreate I'm trying to recreate this gap I gave for the underarm measurement, the underarm. So just trace it out like this, and just trace it out like that. And then I want the sleeve to be flare. So to achieve that flare look, just as you desire, make it. I'm going to make my own sleeve length 12 inches. I'm going to connect that line in the underarm measurement. Just like so. Go ahead and add your seam allowance. So guys, I've finished cutting my sleeve, and this is what the whole piece look like. This is the front panel of my gown. This is the shoulder piece that I cut out for the two shoulders. And this is the sleeve. Remember, it's a flare sleeve, so by the time I finish joining it, it will look like this. I hope it makes sense to you guys. I'll show you how to sew it, how to sew this piece together in my next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.